I used to think of silent retreats as these austere places that are all about depriving yourself. You know, silent. No talking, no communicating, no phones. Why would anyone voluntarily sign up for what you could call a hardship holiday? And then choose to go to this repeatedly?
I get it. I was intimidated by them before. I didn't think I'd ever get through one. But after being on my first, I've been hooked. And I'm now on my 4th or 5th silent retreat now. Even if you've never been on one and, like me, never thought it would be something for you, maybe there are bigger benefits that outweigh some of your initial fears. Fears like being on your own, alone with your thoughts, getting really bored or anxious, or who knows what else is going to come up. I want to share why I keep going back to silent retreats regularly, and maybe it could spark a curiosity in you to consider going on your first one. Let's face it, meditation can feel solitary. I mean, duh, it's a solo journey by design. But if you're without a local meditation community, relying solely on apps and online classes has its limits. I mean, sure, they are valuable, and heck, I teach classes on the Insight Timer app too, but they lack the personal touch of in-person connections. Meditating alone can be tough. It takes discipline to show up daily, and when questions arise or experiences beg to be shared, there's no one around to connect with. The irony is, when you're at a silent retreat, there's no talking either, but the collective energy in the room is felt, and it's palpable. It's a totally different vibe when you're sitting for a prolonged time in silence together. It's like you're sharing an experience, yet having a very different personal experience of it. It's a very special collective presence. Retreats are usually held in these gorgeous settings in nature. Like right now I'm here in Portugal. It's beautiful. And living in a busy city like Amsterdam, I forget the peace and quiet nature brings. It's another level of grounding that helps me drop into that inner quiet. It's definitely a skill learning to tune into that inner calm when things around you are busy. But when you're surrounded by peace, quiet, lush nature, it heightens the internal shift. You know how life can be overwhelming? Like it can feel like everyone and everything around you is calling for your attention. Now. We often don't allow ourselves a timeout or feel like there's no time even for a timeout. And yes, I acknowledge this is definitely a privileged position to be in, but it's actually a necessity to learn how to carve out me time, especially if you feel like you're overwhelmed and burning out. Even though it's only 3 days of silence, what's been really interesting, even on like the first day before we started, there was this desire to keep reaching for my phone, even though my phone is already on airplane mode and there's nothing to check. But it's just this, I need a distraction. I'm often so distracted by the day-to-day, so taking a periodic time out from regular life and retreating into silence with an experienced teacher helps me check in with what's really going on within when there's nothing around to distract. And speaking of experienced teachers,
I'm at the beautiful Dalijo Yoga Center in Portugal, training with Sarah and Thai Powers, and they blend together Yin Yoga, Tibetan Buddhist philosophy, and psychology, and these three practices with their mind-body practices really help you come to better self-understanding, and that's what I love so much about coming back to train with them and to learn from them over and over again.
And checking in every 6 months to a year helps me stay inspired in my practice. If I didn't have this, staying consistent and motivated to show up daily on my yoga mat would be much harder. In fact, the last few weeks leading up to any retreat always feels like it gets harder to focus and my mind gets busier. It's like my mind and body are telling me, it's time for a timeout. You need to disconnect to learn how to reconnect with yourself again. For me, connecting with my teachers, learning from someone with years of experience and wisdom plays a huge role in this. So what are teachers without the teachings? I'm curious about the philosophies and techniques from these ancient traditions. Being on a silent retreat allows you to drop deeper into the experience of it. It's one thing to show up for 10 minutes to an hour daily, but it's a whole other to have your day from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. infused with mindfulness practices and teachings, and then repeating this over 3, 5, 7, or 30 days, however long your retreat is. I am really, really grateful for being here on this retreat. I'm so grateful for having this time, even if it's just 3 short days of silence. It's just this reminder to myself that I have to keep carving out this time for myself. I need to keep coming back to myself again and again, and just to allow myself to tune in. And oh, in case you didn't know, even though you're in silence throughout, there's usually a teacher guiding you through the teachings in a group setting, or there's at least a one-to-one session with the teacher where you can ask questions or explore a little deeper. Yes, you're not just thrown into the room in silence. There are teachings, and there's even a daily schedule of what happens, so there is structured guidance even though you're in silence. And if you think you're ready to go on your first silent retreat, I go through a typical day of what happens in one in this video if you're curious and want to learn more. See you over there.